All right. So back to career. My career essentially, I'm a camp director. And it took me a long time to be able to say that. And I have a hunch someday that won't be so. Remember back to the path thing? Career's like the path, and there's other paths that intersect. Okay, so why I say your career plan could simply be trust God and look to Jesus. That was my plan. In fact, I didn't have a plan. I often don't have a plan. It was my senior year of college at Eastern Mennonite University. And if those of you who are seniors are probably getting this question, where are you going to college? What are you doing next, etc. So that happens in college too. Everyone wants to know what you're going to be doing after college. Anyway, it was January. I was home on Christmas break with some friends. We stayed up very late, and my parents were staying up very late. And so we all decided not to go to church, but Mom couldn't sleep the next morning. And so she got up and went to church. So we woke up at like 11 or something, and we were having lunch. And she comes home and she hands me this the bulletin from church, and she says, "Look at this!" And she's very excited about this announcement about this position at Bethany Birches Camp. And so I'm reading it. You know, it basically says they're looking for an executive director and a couple of things about the job. She's like, "Oh, that's great." And she's like, "Well, don't you think you want to apply?" And I was 21 at that time. And my bias was that people with titles like that tend not to be 21. And also, when you're responsible for lots of children, you at some point should have already been responsible for some children. So I just felt like, Mom, this just is ridiculous. So I sort of told her that, and she's like, well, just think about it. So a month later, I'm talking with this woman from church. Her name is Jody. And she was like, "Hey, Brandon, what are you doing after college?" You know, everyone gets really intense about this. And especially with people like me, because I didn't have a plan. And so they were nervous for my future. And I said, I don't know. And she was like, "Well, I was reading this description at church about this position, executive director of Bethany Birches Camp, and when I was reading it, your name was in my head, and I just kept thinking of you. And I just think you should really look into it." So, of course, Mom had told her, right? So I say, "Did my mom tell you about this?" "No, I haven't talked to your mom for a month." "Oh. So tell me again, you were just thinking about me." "Yeah, just when I read this position, I thought of you." So I sort of, I don't want to say that I blew it off, but there was a big part of me that was, I just don't see it, for myself. So about a month later, now we're heading into March, and there was another woman from church. And we were chatting, and she says, "Brandon, I'm really glad I saw you. I need to talk to you about a dream that I had." And in this dream, we were it was a stage very much like this. And in this dream, we were standing on the stage. There was 4 other people, all whom I knew. And you wanted to go behind this curtain, but we didn't think you should go. And you were really persistent, so then we finally said that you should go, but we wouldn't go. And then I would go. And I believe that you know what this means. Can you tell me what this is? She's known as a prophet at our church, at Blooming Glen Mennonite Church. And I said, "I really do not know what this means. I'm so sorry. I wish I did." And she said, "Well, I know you're going to understand it later. So when you find out, please tell me what it means." Okay. So we go on chatting, and she, at one point in the conversation, she says, "What are you doing after college?" "I don't know. I still really don't know." And she says, "Well, have you heard about this job at Bethany Birches Camp?" And I said, "Has my mother talked with you lately?" And she said, "No, I haven't talked to your mom for 2-3 months." So I'm starting to be haunted by this. So I go back to I live in an off-campus house. I go back to the house, and I'm just walking around the driveway. Sometimes I pace. If this microphone were more mobile, I would be pacing right now. And I'm pacing, and you know how sometimes you pray these prayers that you don't even really need to pray, they're just automatic? It was like that. I was like, "God, are you doing something? Is this you? Are you saying something? What is going on with this job and these women at church?" And I didn't hear anything. So I called Dad, and I said, "Dad, what do you think? Do you think this is God speaking? Is this God telling me to do something?" And he says, well, you would find out if you went and did it. I said, so you're telling me that what I should do is apply for this job, and if I get it, I should take it, and then that's how I'll find out if this was God speaking. Yeah. Which, looking back, is perhaps the wisest thing to say. So that's what I did. So I applied for the job, they didn't call me back forever, and I said, see, this is not God, there's nothing to this. Of course, they called back and they wanted an interview. We had an interview, it went very well. They offered the job. And here I am again, praying this automatic, Lord, is this you? What is this? And I didn't hear anything. So my conversation with Dad comes back to my mind. I guess if I accept the job, then I'll find out if it was God speaking, which would be a really cool thing to find out. So I accepted the job. And moving there was crazy. Vermont, for those who don't know, the ages 20 to 24 in the census are 6% of the state. I was 22 when I moved there. I had almost no friends. I lived alone. I didn't really know what I was doing at work. You've heard the term wilderness in reference to spiritual experience, desert experience. It was very much that for me for almost 3 years. So here's one thing I learned that was really cool during that time. You've heard people say, when I am weak, God is strong. Have you heard that? First of all, God's always strong. And I really like this passage because it says it a little bit differently. 2 Corinthians 12:9. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties, for when I am weak, then I am strong. When I am weak, then I am strong. It's very odd. This is the way that Jesus works. The things that Jesus does are so different often than the things that we do and the things that make sense to us. So here's the thing. I started realizing that here at camp, all these things that I didn't even know that I had available to me started being put to use. And I had this I grew up around here, and I had this social network, as many of you do. And it turns out that a lot of those people in that social network were already in various ways connected with the camp. So the camp was in debt at that time and needed lots of money. So I just started calling people I already knew and said, can we talk about the camp, what we want to do at camp, and see if you can help? Oh yeah, of course, I'd love to talk. So people started saying, how are you raising money so easily? I said, well, it just so happens my friends were already connected to the camp. My recent graduation from EMU allowed me to find counselors easily. My home church, Blooming Glen, happens to be where the founders of Bethany Birches were from. The sort of entrepreneurial spirit that I had was exactly what the camp needed at that time. There were all these things that I didn't even create. They were just part of me as I was young and growing up and learning, and they just got put to use. Every part of me, from my relationships to my skills down to even my hobbies. I love to ski. Here I was in Vermont. I occasionally had interviews while skiing. All of these things got put to use. Amber has a slightly different. How short do you know your story? So Amber, Cheeks, we call her at camp. She does plan much differently than I do.
Yeah,
And she can tell you about that.
Okay, so when I was here, they called me Amber Landis. Now I'm Amber Bergey. So Tavish just said, why didn't you guys got married? And that's because when we were here, we were pretty different from each other. Brandon questioned a lot of things that the culture said, right? Like he said, and wasn't sure how to follow that. And I was more like, oh, it seems good. Like let's just do that. So I did what kind of the things that he was questioning. I didn't really feel the need to question it. So I decided, they're telling me I need to think of a career. well, that's what I'll do then. And so I thought about what I like to do, which is a great start if you're a planner. And I like to play sports. I play field hockey and basketball here. I would have played lacrosse if we had it. But anyways, so I played field hockey and basketball, and I thought if I can't, I was also a little bit in touch with reality, and I knew that I wasn't good enough to play sports forever, which is a hard reality, but true. And so I thought, well, if I can't play sports forever, I'll just try to be around them. So I decided to pursue a career in athletic training, which is, when you watch sports on TV, the person that goes out, you do athletic training here now? You do? Yeah, cool. So you know what that is. The person that goes out and helps people who are injured during a game. And so I went to Eastern University because they had an athletic training degree, and they also would let me play field hockey while pursuing that degree. So I went to Eastern after Christopher Dock and studied being an athletic trainer and played field hockey. It was pretty great. And at Eastern, I hashed out my plan a bit further. I decided I wanted to be an athletic trainer in Division I setting, Division I athletics. Thought about professional sports, but felt like there were too many doctors and too much money dictating what I actually would get to do. Then, after the excitement of being in Division I settled into an athletic training education program where I get to teach a little bit and work with some Division III sports teams. And it actually was coming together. So I realized I needed my master's, so I went to Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, a Division I school with a really great field hockey team. When they were interviewing me and asking why I wanted to come to Old Dominion, from this little school they had never heard of, I said, well, you have a really great field hockey team, and I would love to work with them because I really like that sport. And my soon-to-be instructor told me that's a really terrible answer to one trying to get into graduate school, but appreciate your honesty. So anyways, they let me in, and I was like a really small fish in a really big pool, which was good for me at that time. So I was well on my way to carrying out my plan. I was getting my master's. I was